Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast.
Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Vidya Ramanathan. Vidya Ramanathan is a high-performance mentor and creator of the True Resonance Method, a 5-dimensional framework that helps entrepreneurs master emotional defaults and mindsets for values-aligned business growth. She works with mission-driven entrepreneurs to bridge the certainty gap, the space between their current level and the 7- or 8-figure vision they're ready to claim. As an EQ mentor to top entrepreneurs and a multi-million-dollar tech founder herself, Vidya supports leaders in recalibrating how they think, feel, and lead. Using her proven True Resonance method, she helps clients dismantle invisible ceilings, reconnect with purpose, and lead with greater clarity and conviction. Her work elevates not just business outcomes, but the inner alignment that fuels lasting growth, strong teams, and a life by design. Well, good afternoon, Vidya. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, my friend. I appreciate it and making the time. I know it's early here in Kansas City, but you're currently in France. You do a lot of traveling, and that's amazing. And you and I share some of the same stomping grounds out in Southern California. We talked about that, but I'm just excited to learn from you. So I'm going to jump into your first question. Vidya, you created the True Resonance Method, a 5-dimensional framework for high-performing entrepreneurs. Can you walk us through its core components and how it helps bridge the certainty gap?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. This is very near and dear to my own heart. True Resonance is really about helping entrepreneurs and leaders come closer to what they have as a core vision in their lives. So it's about them aligning to their vision. So the first step is always about finding out what is intrinsically most important to these leaders and entrepreneurs in reaching that vision. So the core alignment piece, which is the first pillar, is about clarity on their highest priorities in life so that their business and their work is a reflection of those higher priorities in life and not a byproduct of those highest values. So this is what I found prevents the exhaustion, burnout, and allows for leadership direction to be strategic. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is about emotional precision. By that, what I mean is really being aware of what the emotional drivers behind certain behaviors are and getting closer to the vision by becoming very aware of those patterns of behavior. This is not like ad nauseum mindset work or emotional work, but it's about recognizing how there are two sides to every emotion and tapping into both sides to lead effectively. So the second pillar is emotional precision. The third pillar is about vision integration, because once you are clear on what are the intrinsic drivers in the form of values and the emotional resonance is clear, then the vision becomes clearer and it becomes more embodied for leaders. So we take vision from the angle of multiple dimensions of life, not just a singular work dimension, but rather who does this person want to be in the next 15, 20 years, and what do they want to leave as a legacy on this planet? So that is the direction we take in vision integration, which is the third pillar. The fourth pillar is really about pulling in these first three pillars and driving the behaviors and the decisions and the actions to lead from this alignment, I want to say, so that there's inner congruence going into the outer world. And the last pillar is about really speaking into how one wants to live, what is the vision they have. So it's about resonant communication, which taps into who the leader is in their core and what their vision is and allows them to communicate that clearly so that they can attract the team dynamics and the client interactions and partnerships that are required for them to get to their vision. So those are the 5 core pillars, and every step helps a leader get closer and closer to being certain about their vision and achieving that vision with certainty. So that's why I call it the certainty gap. And these 5 pillars essentially allow them to get closer from where they are to where they want to be through the 5 pillars.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And that certainly resonates with me. And I took those nuggets away. And real quick, just the 5 pillars. Again, core alignment, you talked about the clarity, emotional precision, being aware of certain behaviors and what those emotions are behind those. Vision integration, multiple dimensions of life. It's not just, you can't just be one dimensional. And of course, pulling all those together, the first 3 pillars. And then that 5th pillar is how one wants to live. What's their vision and how to communicate that vision. And again, I'm just really paraphrasing, summarizing, but I like to do that. And I think it's really awesome. And it's certainly going to resonate with our audience. Thank you, Vidya. Vidya, as someone who's both a multi-million-dollar tech founder and an EQ mentor, what's one emotional or mindset blind spot you most often see in 7 and 8-figure entrepreneurs?
I think one of the biggest mind faults that I see, or, mind bombs, that I see is that most entrepreneurs think they can continue doing what they've been successful with. To get to that next level, though, that is likely not enough, right? So that next level may be I want more freedom in my business. I want more strategic direction in my business. I want to stay more in my zone of genius. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But whatever got them to that point is not what will get them to that next level. So it has to be an identity shift that gets them to the next level. And to get into that new identity shifts, it takes looking at what are my current behaviors? What are my actions? What are my decisions that are stopping me from getting to that next level? And how can I step more into leadership of myself and more in regulation of myself to get to that next level?
That's awesome. And I heard that saying before. This resonates. It aligns with what you said is to get somewhere you've never been, you got to do something you've never done before, right? Basically. And I've seen that a lot from people that have been very successful, 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneurs. But those blind spots, it gets all of us as humans. And we all get there, right? We've been successful in our careers. You and I both been successful executives, but to get to that next level, you can't always do the same thing. And I really appreciate that. Vidya, having lived and worked in 7 countries, how has cross-cultural awareness shaped your approach to emotional intelligence and leadership development?
One of the biggest gifts of being cross cultural for me has been that I've learned to look at it through different lens, through different perspectives. And that has been the single biggest shift for me. So, in a lot of ways, looking at it from a different lens means understanding that there are varied viewpoints to the same thing. A great example of this is the style of, let's say, sales that you see in the United States doesn't necessarily work in other countries. So, in other countries, when I come in and work with clients, it is a lot more about just being with them and allowing them the space to decide if they want to work with me, for example. So that's very different than the United States style, which is, in sales, it's more of a here I am, I'm somebody who can put myself out there kind of approach. So in the UK and in France, it's a lot more subtle. It's just your presence that allows you to guide that. So that's just a simple example, but the depth is really about meeting people where they are and allowing them to resonate with you in the way that you are. This has been the core change in the way I function. And I know a lot of people will come into Paris, for example, and say, I have so many problems with the French people. But I have to tell you, Brian, every time I walk into any store, I just feel so resonant with the person that I'm able to have a conversation with anybody. So I think that is the key leadership skill to learn, whether you're in business or whether you're in a personal situation. That is the key thing to learn going into any situation.
Amazing. Thank you. And you do have that special connection. I can tell, speaking with you just for a few minutes already, I appreciate that. What I'd like to highlight is cross-cultural experience you've had is you are able to look at things differently through your lens because you've been around the world and seen how different cultures work, especially in the sales arena. Again, at the end of the day, it's about connecting with people. And you mentioned really at the depth of it, it's about meeting people where they're at. So I appreciate that. Vidya, last question of the day. Looking ahead, how do you see the role of emotional intelligence evolving in a world driven increasingly by AI, automation, and external performance metrics?
This is such a beautiful question, Brian. Having been a technologist myself, I see the power in AI. Doesn't mean that it's not going to challenge us, right? AI is going to challenge certain roles, but what I see is that there's a huge opportunity for people to step into their zone of genius and own their power in what they do really well and delegate the pieces that are more repetitive or not encouraging of their zone of genius. So, in a lot of ways, it is up to the leadership. It is about the top leaders stepping in and helping others see that AI is here to support them in some ways. And it's also helping them see that in the challenge, they have the opportunity to step into their zone of genius and really get to that new level of success, learn new skills, and become even more valuable for their expertise in the marketplace. Now, some people will need to pivot and go to a totally different profession potentially, but even in that, there is a certain mastery that happens because there's support and challenge that is available in that situation. And so it's up to the leaders to really help their employees and their team members see this clearly and help them to recognize what that strength is, what that core zone of genius is, and help them step into that next level. So I think that's what will really bring out the power of AI and help people get to that new level of self-leadership.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Really do. Yeah, AI is here. Been talking about it for, gosh, almost 2 years on the podcast, believe it or not. But it will certainly challenge us in many areas. What I heard from you is really to embrace their zone of genius, delegate the monotonous, repetitive tasks to AI, stretch, learn new skills, stretch goals, of course. And as a leader, help the team, help employees to see that vision and help them grow as self-leaders as well. So I really appreciate that message. Vidya, it was such a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
It was my pleasure too, Brian. Thank you so much.
Bye for now.